All right, hello everybody. Welcome to the last day of July. It's July 31st. And this is Anthony Stewart. This channel is called Food for Thought. And my mission is to question everything they've ever said and hopefully find some answers and maybe some information contrary to popular belief. And that's something that we wanted to talk about today, which I want you to ask these questions for yourself and hopefully do some of your own due diligence and research into seeking truth. And coming from a health wellness perspective, I am studying to be a nutritionist. I am not a doctor or a scientist, but I have a getting there long journey and a longer journey ahead of me, but to finding optimal health and figuring it out for myself. And my mission is to share this with you, and hopefully you can pick up some tips and maybe change your life in a dramatic fashion, hopefully for the best. And yeah, that's what we're trying to do here. So I have a couple things to talk about today, and this is for the people, the new subscribers. Thank you for joining our channel. My message is very clear. Things may not be what they seem, and that leads me to, I guess you could call this a starting point and talking point for everything would be to forget everything that we've been taught. And by saying that, I don't mean that there's no relevance in it. I mean that things may not be what they seem. Now, it's easy enough to put your faith into somebody who has studied a long time in a certain field, but what happens when there's discourse kind of indicates to me, speaking from a logic perspective, that there might be some missing links. And the funny thing is I've been studying in school, and a lot of the stuff I learn, the science behind it, I agree with. The biology side and the physiology side, I agree with. But putting it into practical use is very subjective, and there's a lot of noise, and it gets very complicated. So I encourage you to find out for yourself, ask questions for yourself, and challenge your own beliefs. Now, if a doctor tells me something, I have a choice. I believe it, or I can challenge it. What is ingrained in your belief system will dictate a lot of what happens in your life. And I urge you to take this very seriously, because from what I've found, and like I said, this is my opinion, I encourage you to challenge this and argue with this, but the deeper I go into some rabbit hole into something, the more I find confusion, debate, and some things that just don't add up. Now, example, we've been told that, cereal in the morning, you need to drink juice. These are things that are very subjective. I don't agree with them, whether you do or not. The point is, this was ingrained in us by whomever, and through our lives, we hold on to those beliefs, and it's very hard to accept that that might be false. I understand that. My job, my mission, is to show you that there may be another way. Now, I believe, this is my belief that I've come to accept, which I didn't agree with about 3, 4, 5, 10 years ago, was that food and nutrition specifically directly affects the health of your body from a metabolic state and a hormonal function, digestion. It is very naive to think what you're putting in your mouth is not greatly affecting the state of your body, mind, and arguably soul. Now, whatever way you think you're doing for healthy reasons, you may be spinning wheels. It might not be enough. And controlling your health knob is a choice you're going to have to make. And examples are, for one, I don't believe a specific diet is the answer to sustainability for the rest of your life. There are certain protocols and certain interventions that will definitely help you, that may cause a good chain of events, but is it sustainable? And I would encourage you to shift the way you look at a diet and change it into working nutrition for yourself. And now, I said this before, nutrition, and I learned this from Robert Lustig, who wrote a book called Metabolical, and he's been The Case Against Sugar, The Bitter Truth. There's lectures all over it. He's from the University of California, San Francisco, a pediatric endocrinologist, a very smart, intelligent man who is putting the problem directly related to hyper-processed foods. And what I've found from doing my research online, myself being a great example of it, is things will change almost immediately if you cut out certain foodstuffs. This includes vegetable, seed oils, cutting back the sugar as much as you can. And I'm not asking you to change your life. I'm not asking you to stop sugar completely. There's a big difference between dessert, and what I'll get into is dessert is fine, arguably. Once a day, twice a week, once a month. But when your body is unable to recognize the difference between the food you're putting in from the dessert, meaning, example, skim milk on your cereal for breakfast. Then you have a glass of orange juice, maybe a bagel. You have a snack before lunch, a granola bar, something maybe with a little bit of sugar. Then for lunch, you have a sandwich, which is, 2 pieces of bread or a baguette or something like that. Then you have an afternoon snack, maybe a treat, maybe a chocolate bar, maybe a sugary drink. And then for dinner, you have a pasta or, some kind of starchy carb dominated dinner. Then you have dessert. Your body doesn't recognize that. Your body is seeing blood glucose spiking every time you put that dietary day into your body, which over time is probably not going to do you any favors. So the problem is that we're consuming all the time. And what do these companies, these financially driven agendas, are to make you consume as much as possible in the name of it's not that bad for you. So that's an argument right there. Another thing is gut healing. And it's not as simple as just feeding your body with a bunch of fiber. Fiber is subjective. Fiber is, there's one camp that says you must eat fiber, a lot of fiber. My belief is that fiber should coordinate with the amount of sugar you're eating to soften the load, the glycemic load on your liver. Now, that may be wrong. I find that the way I'm eating with a low-carb approach, that has taken a while to understand these mechanisms and understand how my body works. But the only way you can get there is to understand what sugar, refined carbohydrates, and starchy foods do over time. We're good at tolerating it right now. But 10, 20, 30 years from now, over time, your body develops insulin resistance or high blood sugar or an autoimmune condition, and it's directly reflected on the nutrition or lack thereof that you're putting in your body today. There's a lot of space out there that says, heal your gut. And I believe that is paramount in optimal health. But once again, very subjective and very confusing, because the more you look for it, the more you see that someone will say this thing and then that thing. So there's been a lot of studies about microbiome, and yes, we are directly attached and affected by the microbes in our gut. I 100% believe that. The microbiome, the diversity of it, once again, there's so much to be said. I believe first and foremost, your tissue has to be strong enough to be resilient and to absorb the proper nutrients. Before you can worry about your microbes, you have to have the machine in place. That would include high protein, lots of collagen, and the right building blocks for a healthy small intestine, specifically your duodenum, which is the first part of your small intestine, and proper organ function. Without tissue, what do you got? Now that leads to the essential nutrients, essential fatty acids, essential amino acids, and essential minerals and vitamins, which mean we cannot produce them from our body. We have to consume them. And it would make sense to me to not be deficient in protein with a full amino acid spectrum. My opinion. There's lots of space out there that says too much protein will kill you. I find it hard to believe that the stuff that we're made of would eventually destroy us. Now, there's a lot of context and a nuance, and I urge you to find it for yourself. But to not, when your body is in a toxic state or an unhealthy state, not giving it the right building blocks, for one, I think is a mistake. And then how your body's absorbing those nutrients is vital. So gut health is extremely important. And there's ways, there's the GAPS protocol, which I believe is a great way to start. You can Google Natasha Campbell McBride. She's the originator of the GAPS protocol. And if you listen to her with her philosophies on vegetables, on meat, and she is coming from a place where she is curing children of autoimmune conditions, autism, and she's had great results, and it's worth a look. And I believe our health is directly related to our microbiome and our gut, although certain approaches might not be the answer. Now, if you're a vegetarian or a vegan, yes, there are ways to nourish your body, but you'll have to understand that it takes a little bit of work. And remember, Doritos, Coca-Cola, Oreos are all vegan friendly. And that right there says veganism is not a diet. Certain vegan diets can be effective. Once again, back to my philosophy of, for the short term, it's probably not what you're giving your body that is making that dramatic change in your health. It's what you're not. When you cut out added sugar, refined carbohydrates, starch, and vegetable oils, and seek more natural whole food approach, you're gonna notice a difference. Now, your body will sustain that over time, but what is optimal? That's a whole different argument. So it's something to keep in mind. Now, what would be the perfect situation? And this is where everybody argues. What is a species-specific diet? And if you look to nature and you find animals out in nature that are eating a species-specific diet, they don't have non-communicable diseases. Cancer is very rare. It's an environmental influence. Specifically, look at what's going on around us. Pollution. Endocrine disruptors due to plastics and Teflon. Synthetic clothing. Poor sleep. These all add up, not in your favor. Now, if we look at the vegetable kingdom, We're getting vegetables on a truck that are sprayed with chemicals we don't even know that the FDA deems safe. Safe does not mean good for you. So what would I say? This ties into the local, seasonal, nose to tail. If you can eat and consume one animal and you grow your own food in proper, natural, enriched fertilizer, you will naturally come into a species, arguably species-specific diet. Now, whether you increase the vegetables or decrease the vegetables, I believe that's probably contextual. My personal belief is that the more and more research and studying I do, I believe human beings, we are obligate hypercarnivores. And I tend to agree with the likes of Bart Kay, Anthony Chaffee, and Sean Baker. I don't expect you to agree with them, but I would urge you to see both sides before you make these choices. Now, food science examines what's in a foodstuff. Nutrition is what happens between your mouth and your cells. Just because it's on the package, or in the plant, or in the meat, does not mean your body is absorbing the nutrients. So that's another look that we have to look at. 3 important aspects to take into consideration. With all else, we need to breathe. Breathing through your nose, the science is there. There's a lot of people now studying breath. Whether you're doing breath work exercises, breathing through your nose, look at all the people that have sleep apnea. Where does the CPAP go? They want your oxygen, your mucosal lining, where we trap for viral loads and bacteria. If you're breathing through your nose, you have a better chance of preventing that stuff. Now, you can argue with me, but I urge you to find out for yourself. Breathing is what we need to do to stay alive. Wouldn't it make sense to breathe as best as possible? Sleep, all my life has been overrated. I have abused this asset very much so for the first, 3/4 of my life. And now I'm worried that that would have dramatic effects on the longevity of my future. Although all I can do is worry about now, and I'm learning ways to sleep better, understanding that circadian rhythms make you feel better. And then movement. It doesn't have to be excessive, but move properly, move often, sometimes move fast. Lift some heavy stuff once in a while. It's not a bad idea. I have been slowly but surely getting faster and stronger over the last 3 years when my body should be getting weaker and slower. Why? I think I'm starting to understand the formula. I have taken a very much meat-based, most of the time 99% carnivore, and the results are amazing. I feel great every day, and I'm going to do a video about the effects that has done specifically over the last year and a few months. But there are ways to improve your health systematically, and if you just change the way you think about food, nutrition or lack thereof, and get it back into being intuitive, being a human being. We look to nature. Nature has the answers. A lot of diseases and a lot of autoimmune conditions and a lot of ill effects are foodable, not druggable. There's no cures out there. Drugs do not cure you. They may help for the short term, and I'm not knocking modern medicine has done wonders for our health, arguably, but I believe we're going down the wrong path, looking to drugs as the short-term gain or long-term success, which I don't believe we'll ever get there. Once you start down the druggable path, you have to fall back on it. And the way to change that is to start becoming aware of the food or lack or not food that you're consuming. I hope you will look to logic and reason at the current situation that's going on in the world right now and start understanding you have a say We need farms. We need ranchers. The cycle of life revolves around animals and soil. We have to protect our soil. And I don't believe in synthetic fertilizers built in a lab. But if you look to nature and the way things were, there's a lot of missing information out there. Support local, eat seasonal, and stay strong. Thanks, everybody.